Welcome to Who We Become Life Beyond Change. I'm your host, Amanda Lentz. This is a space for honest conversations about identity, resilience, and what it really means to rebuild after life changes. Here, we share stories of loss and hope, of challenge and courage, and of becoming someone new, even when life doesn't go as planned and the future feels uncertain. Whether you're navigating illness, grief, transition, or simply searching for meaning after change, you are not alone here. And I'm so glad you're here. Let's begin. Welcome back to Who We Become Life Beyond Change. Today's conversation is with someone who didn't wait for the room to change. She walked in anyway. There are rooms in this world that aren't built for everyone, spaces where who you are creates friction before you said a word. My guest today spent years as one of the only women in executive protection, a field built on physical presence, split second judgment, and an authority that the industry rarely handed to women. She protected public figures around the globe, then stepped into leadership at one of the world's largest tech companies, overseeing executive travel security and large scale event logistics. And now she's channeling all of that into FemForce, a platform, a community, and a growing movement for women who are done asking permission. I'm honored today to welcome Rachael Paskvan. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much, Amanda. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. So I've been really looking forward to our conversation because your career trajectory is just so fascinating, and the fact that you have really paved the way. And so I'd love to understand what drew you to executive protection.
So, honestly, it was a little bit of nepotism. My father was a Marine and a police officer, and he did executive protection. So, I kind of grew up in this kind of household that I didn't know I was like subliminally getting messaged about this career and about this industry. Um, and he had a rule that his daughters had to do martial arts, the eldest daughter, throughout their life. So, I did martial arts from an early age all the way through high school. I was nationally ranked, received my black belt, traveled all over the country competing, got college scholarships for it. So that was like my after school activity that really set me apart from the other of thousands of kids who are also applying to college. So when I was doing that, I never thought like a career was going to come out of that. I went to college, I joined a sorority, and I really wanted to, work at one of the three-letter agencies, anyone that would have taken me, but I graduated in 2009. So there was a recession. There were no jobs, which is hard for anybody that's going through it now. I see you. It's not an easy time. But my father kept pushing, like, you would be really good at this. And there's no women that do this. Like, there are no women in this field, very far and few at that time, also. And so I finally listened, was like, all right, I'll go to one of the schools that you keep talking about. He sent me to an EP school. And I was like, darn, he's right. I would be really good at this. And so then it just was a lot of networking, a lot of being in the right room at the right time, to land my first client, and kind of snowballed from there.
Wow. That is what an incredible journey. And I graduated in '08, so I completely hear you
Right.
on the recession. It was a very challenging time, but I love that, sometimes at that age, we don't always want to admit that our parents know what's
A
best for us. And so,
1000%. It was all heavy sigh, eye roll. Like, what could you know about life? Nothing. You've obviously not lived. How could you dare tell me what to do with my life?
well, I love that. And so you had shared that your dad had mentioned there's not many women. And so what did the landscape once you got into that space, what did it actually look like? And, were you the only woman typically in the room?
I was always the only woman in the room, and I think any women that do executive protection will tell you that they are the only women in the room, like 99.9% of the time. Most of the women, if they were coming into the EP field, were coming from government agencies. So a lot of past Secret Service, FBI, those who had been in the government sector a lot more. You weren't seeing a lot of females in the celebrity sector. And really, where you were seeing females were with high network dignitary families. So a lot of the Saudi princesses, things like that, just because the cultural norm there, they couldn't have men protecting them. They would have had to have a female protecting them to go into the rooms that they're going to and being with these high royal families. So you really had a very limited source of like where you were finding women and where we were able to get into the room.
And so, with the caveat, I'm not asking for any details about your clients, but can you just paint a picture of, day to day, what could work look like in that field? It's not a field that I'm familiar with, and I'm sure for many people listening, it's one that many paths may not have crossed. So, can you just paint kind of a high level of, what was your role?
Yeah, so your life revolves around someone else's life and their schedule. So a lot of times if it's a celebrity and they're filming, I did a lot of on film set things. So you're up when they're up, they're doing overnight filming, they're doing weekend filming, you're with them on set, you're with them when they leave set. A lot of times this stuff isn't happening in LA. I think a lot of people think movies are just automatically filmed there. No, a lot of times they're filmed on location, and those locations can be very obscure places where it's just more cost effective for the film to be produced. So all over the world, you could be in the random places in Romania. I was in very middle of nowhere Thailand where they were doing large scale movies, but that's where they happened to be filming them. So your day just revolves around them. And then when I got into the corporate world, more into the tech sector, those are high functioning individuals. So it teaches you also how to maximize your time. Like, no matter what, time is the one great equalizer that we all have. You have the same hours in a day as Warren Buffett, as Oprah, as any of these high network people. It's all about how you utilize their time. So we are usually ready and there an hour before they even are awake. So my days usually started around 5 a.m. And I was really lucky that a lot of the corporate individuals are not like, they're not out clubbing, they're not out doing like insane partying or anything like that. Like, they work and they're running multi-trillion-dollar organizations and companies of tens of thousands of people. They also have families and charities and a lot of other things that they're dedicating their time to. So you really had a very strict, like 5 a.m. to maybe 10 p.m. day. And that was your day. You were just with them all day long, whatever they were doing. If you're going to the office, if you're going to a doctor's appointment, if you're going to the gym, if you're going to a kid's soccer game, whatever it might be, you're just with them the entire time until they went in at night and it was time for them to go to bed.
Wow. What and again, that's just something that I never really thought about, like what it takes on the other side to be a protector. And so, you had mentioned your transition from this type of field work to working in the tech sector. And so, what did that teach you? As you were moving from maybe one industry to the next.
I mean, the tech sector, I mean, it moves fast. We're seeing it now. We're going to continue seeing it with, this was the social media blitz and bubble, and it popped, and now we're into the AI blitz and bubble, and we're seeing it grow. And at some point it's going to pop, and it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But when it comes to tech, everybody's scrambling to be the top at whatever the new next thing is. So it moves really fast, and these people are doing a lot of things. And I think you don't realize how much of the business you really start to need to understand when you're working for these people who are running these huge corporations, because you're doing a lot of policy things, like when especially everything that AI touches that has to do with tech now, no matter what. If you have an app, if you have a software, somehow you're utilizing AI in that. If you're not, it's going to fall straight behind and it's not going to work. You have to be utilizing AI. And so because of that, you need to understand that, different governments view AI in a different way. So you're going to be traveling a lot, going to these very like high intense policy meetings with government officials. So you need to understand their culture, how it works there, how they view security, what their external threats are that have nothing to do with you, but they could be in a coup for all you know, or they could be, it's a war in the Middle East. And we have a lot of things that are going on globally. So you have to really be up to date with what's going on in the world, but also what's going on in the industry and in the company that you're actually working for.
Wow. What an amazing experience to be just be exposed
Oh,
to
1,000%.
all of that. And so you you know, was there a specific moment that you think about a job, a decision, or maybe even a confrontation that, shifted something in you, as an individual? Again, not with the caveat, not looking for specifics, but was there a moment where you're like, wow, you know, this is so different from what I had expected?
I think it's when you end up in these rooms with people where you see things on TV, you see these world leaders, you see people like Oprah, or you see people like Bill Gates, and you would never think that you would ever even be close to being in a room with them. But then all of a sudden you're in rooms with these type of people all the time. And just learning from them, their mannerisms, how they speak to individuals, how they public speak is also a really great way to take tidbits from them, like how they are able to ebb and flow in their speeches, how they captivate a room. Like these are extremely captivating individuals. They
Yeah.
wouldn't be where they were if they weren't at this stage of their careers. So you can just learn so much. I think we were at SpaceX once with a client, and one of the rockets was going up. And it was really interesting because everyone was there, from the janitor to the engineer that designed a part that went on that rocket ship. And I was like, I just think it's so cool. Everyone's here. And they were like, well, yeah, everybody here has a purpose. Like the janitor took
Totally.
out the trash of that engineer. If he didn't, and that engineer's workspace was littered with trash and doing this, he mightn't have been distracted and might not have been able to get to the probable outcome of designing that part. Like everybody has a role to play, and everybody's role helped to achieve this rocket going off. And so I always found that
That
really, really interesting that you can make your role as important as you are. You can gain as much traction as you can by just paying attention and being in those rooms. It doesn't matter if you're a janitor at a company. You can learn. You can look around, see what books are they reading on their desk. Like, where did they go to school? Like, maybe I should think about doing that. Or you can stay being a janitor if that's what makes you happy and fulfilled. But there are different ways at any kind of job and in these big corporations where you can really hone it and take a part of it.
I love that. What a great perspective, because it's true. We don't always think about the infrastructure that
Yeah.
it takes to make an event or a rocket launch successful,
Yeah.
but it really does take the entire organization. And then I love what you said about taking that perspective and learning from those around you. And so at some point you decided to transition out of this space and you have created FemForce. And this idea and this concept started to take shape. And so can you talk us through, how did it start? And was there a moment where you're like, yes, this is what I need to do? Or is it more of a gradual reckoning and understanding?
It was 1,000% a gradual thing. The tech sphere has been littered with layoffs. I was affected by the layoffs, that are going on in the tech industry. And as they were happening though, and I was still fortunate enough to was at my previous position, I was like, I'm just worried. I'm worried. And one of the individuals who I happen to be very high up in the C-suite level of the company was like, you need to have a personal brand. Like, what are you known for? Like, what do people know you as? They're like, and it doesn't have to just be your name. You can name it something, you can make it something, but you need to start pouring into that cup also. So that way you have something to fall back on and be like, look at all the things that I'm doing and just look at me. I think a lot of times we're not the braggy gender
Right.
here. Like we're out there getting PhDs, but then we're still making sandwiches and taking our kids to school the next day. Like nothing has changed. We're doing all of these amazing things. So I started FemForce as a way to start getting speaking engagements, start doing workshops, things like that, almost as a side hustle, just to be like, if the bubble bursts and the layoffs happen and I get affected, like I want to have something to fall back on. And I also want to start building my personal brand so that when I retire one day, I am not the type of person that's going to fully retire. I don't think a lot of people fully retire. We're just like, what do you do with all that time? Like
Yep.
you've been so go. And that's anybody. Like when you've been working and working, a lot of times you're like, yeah, I'm going to take a good 80% break. But what about the other 20? Like, what am I doing? So speaking engagements were a great idea for me to like start teeing up. I'm a good hearty amount away from retiring. I'm only 39, but I wanted to make sure that I had a really great brand to fall back on. So I started FemForce and it started just with some Instagram posts on like motivational Mondays and, putting out a biweekly newsletter literally about anything I wanted to, which was kind of nice. It's kind of like a little journal where I'm just like, you know what? These are the top 10 things I'm buying right now. This is fun. Or this is a book I read and I want to dive deep into it. I think this book has maybe changed my life or changed my perspective on something and I want to talk about it. And so started with a newsletter. And then my career coach at the time, she was like, have you ever thought about doing a podcast? I'm like, that's just so much time and work. Like, no. But then I am one of those people that if you like give me an idea, like I will go full in. I will go full in. I will do all the research. I will like figure out how to do this because I'm going to be like super, super dedicated. So was like looking into it and I'm like, maybe I could do it. Like maybe I could start a podcast. And so I did. I started a podcast and the first like 25 guests were my friends because I was like, I don't know how to get guests. I have no, like, it is a vast world, as you know,
Yeah.
Amanda, being out there and trying to figure out how to podcast, trying to find a recording company. So I'm like, I can probably learn to edit. I know I don't have the bandwidth to edit. I still have a 9 to 5. Like that's not occurring right now, but how am I going to be able to do all of this? Like, how do you find guests? And it really took off into something else, especially with the podcast, because I've been able to just meet these phenomenal women who are doing just amazing things in the world, but we don't all have like Kardashian followings. So
Right.
you don't hear about these kind of things that are going on 24/7. And it could be a lot of them are just small businesses, but those small businesses are making a real impact in people's lives. And so I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to amplify women's voices. Like I'm not looking to be, the next Joe Rogan or anything like that. Like I do it for free. It's my creative outlet. It gives me such joy to have now this like global network of women who are completely not in my sphere at all. Like I think I've interviewed maybe 3 or 4 people that are in security, but just completely different walks of life. But it's given me such an amazing network and also great lessons, like things I would never have known about or never might have read about or learned about if I wasn't able to talk to all of these women. And so the podcast is coming up on 2 years in October, and it's just been like this really great experience to be able to meet like amazing women like yourself and get to talk to you,
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And what a journey too, because
right?
I think it's so important to have, a creative outlet and something that defines you and something that, we get so as a culture, we get so tied into what we do and what our job is. And then we lose ourselves a little bit in that identity. But the fact that you have built this platform to elevate women, especially with your background as being the only woman in the room, and now you are helping raise others is just so amazing. And congratulations on 2 years of a
Thank
podcast. I mean,
you.
that
We're
is
excited.
just phenomenal.
I'm excited. It's just a fun journey, and like for anybody who wants to get into it, like you can do it. And I was just really dedicated. I think a lot of people were like, "Oh, she'll do like 5 or 6 episodes," and be like, "All right." And I'm like, "No, I'm committed. I'm committed. If anything, if at least for my guests to like keep it going, to also try to get them some traction. Like maybe somebody will hear the podcast or see a clip on Instagram and be like, oh, I had no idea that you could get this kind of service, or like, wow, I'm also going through this kind of experience. And if it connects one person, I just think that's a really special thing.
Oh, absolutely. No, and it's definitely not for the faint of heart. So
No,
it's definitely a labor of love, but you're so right though, as you get connected and now you have this global network and you're educating and empowering other women. And I just think that is so incredible.
I love that.
And so you speak about women's leadership as an asset, not a liability. And I love that. And so, you know, from your own experience, can you talk a little bit about how you came up with that concept and really what resonated for you with that?
Yeah, I think a lot of times, so many of these industries are male dominated, and a lot of them, like mine, are male viewed. Where when you say that profession, the first thing that comes to mind is a male. Like you couldn't even picture a female doing it. If we say a construction worker, the first thing you think of are the guys on the streets with the yellow hats. Like, you don't really picture a woman. If you picture a bodyguard, it was definitely not me that your brain was coming up with, and that is because of what we're being fed. And so, because of these kind of male dominated, male viewed industries that we're just surrounded and inundated with, everyone always expected me to be leaning so much more into my masculine energy. And I do. I'm a very strong woman. I'm surrounded by a lot of alphas all day long. Like, that is definitely a thing that is occurring because of the industry that I'm in. So I have to really be a lot more alpha in my personality. And especially when I'm, in an compromising situation, I need to be in control of the situation, in control of the
Sure.
room. So you have to really hone your masculine energy. But that doesn't mean that we need to fully let go of our feminine energy and the things that make us feminine. I think I just did a conference and someone was asking me, like, how do you end up getting along with all the guys? Like, is it hard because you're just surrounded by them all the time? And I'm like, well, I don't ever try to be one of them. Like that
Mhm.
whole saying of like, "Oh, you should just be like one of the guys." I'm not one of the guys, okay? I love pink. I love Barbie. I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. Like, anybody I've ever worked with knows that. Like, they will see things and the guys will take clips and send it to me and be like, "Oh, look what I saw at a store." And I'm like, "Oh, I love that." So things like that. Like, I'm a Disney adult. Like, I've never not try to be exactly who I am. And that can sometimes for other women come off as like a little bit obnoxious or a little bit too much. But I am a little bit too much. But that's also what's getting me ahead in a lot of these rooms is by being able to have my voice and being able to speak to it. Like, if you're not yourself and if you're trying to be a completely different person, we spend what, like 80% of our life or some like disgusting number of hours at work.
Yep.
I couldn't imagine taking all of that energy to then try to be somebody that I'm not and like things that I don't like. Like, yay, sports are great, but I don't want to be talking about them 24/7. That's not my thing. Would rather
Sure.
talk about Bravo. Like, that is just who I am. Like, I'm a girly girl. I'm a girl's girl at heart. And so I just never wanted to change that. And I think that showcased a lot in my leadership. I think also the fact that I am a woman in a male dominated, male viewed industry, I'm always trying to bring another woman to the table. I think our generation, we're so lucky. Like, we've broken the glass ceiling. It's
Absolutely.
happened. But now we need to like push those pieces apart. We have to climb through and then we need to reach down and help the next person come up through it. It's broken, but that doesn't mean that it's completely shattered to the point where we're all just climbing on up in an easy rope. It's still quite a journey to get there.
Absolutely. And I love the authenticity that you bring because it's so true. Once you start to change yourself, you lose your identity. And then who are you? Right. And I
Heck,
love that
just
you,
how would you keep track of it?
right?
And like,
Yes.
you're one person at home, but you're a completely different person at work then, like your likes, like to what, I mean, just your personality, the topics you talk about, your stance on things. I'm like, that's so complicated.
Yeah, and exhausting too, trying to keep these 2 separate personas almost between work and, personal. And there is, one thing I love is there's no work-life balance, right?
No.
It's integration, right? We have to learn how to integrate not only where we spend our time, but who we are. And showing up as your authentic self, to your point, is the only way that we're gonna continue to get through this glass ceiling that's been constructed.
Oh, and I think it's a lot of times like, yeah, it's hard. And I can sit here and say, like, be your authentic self.
Yes,
Not everybody's going to like you. That's just the world. Like, there are a lot of people, I'm sure, that do not like me. They don't like what I stand for. They don't like how I do it. They don't like that I'm a female in this male dominated, male viewed industry. They don't like that I've been successful in it. There are a lot of things, and I don't know if it comes with age, honestly, or if this new generation has a very like different mindset than our generation had, but it might come with age where you just have to get to a point where you just can't care anymore because if you're putting in that energy, it's hard. But I do understand that like it's hard for me to sit here and say like you should just authentically be you. It's not an easy thing to decide to do that because people aren't going to like you and you just got to be okay with that at some point.
absolutely. And as a recovering people pleaser, I will say it is
Eldest daughter.
yes, eldest daughter, same. And so it is, and absolutely. And I certainly don't want to sugarcoat it because it's not easy, but it takes just like anything else, it takes that practice. It takes building that muscle. And so I would love to understand, based on your leadership style, and what we've talked about is, recognizing not everybody's going to like you, and that's not easy. But what would you say to the woman who's been told, either explicitly or implicitly, how in whatever environment they're in, that the way that she leads is the problem?
I mean, if more than one person is telling you that, you definitely need to sit back and like rethink something. I think if you're getting it from one person, feedback is a gift. I don't get positive feedback 24/7 by any means, shape, or form. I'm human. So you have to be able to take feedback in the same way that you're going to give feedback. You have to really take it well. You don't want to give bad feedback in a bad way. You don't want to be mean about it or cruel or downgrading or anything like that. But you also need to take feedback in a way where it can be constructive. If someone's just like, your shirt is ugly, we don't like it, like that's not constructive. And like, you need to ignore those people. But I think when it comes to getting feedback on your leadership style, a lot of people also learn differently. They
Mm,
need different types of leadership style. And so if you only inundate yourself to like this one way and this is the way that you do it, it's not going to work for every single person on your team. Like we're inundated with so much. We have people that are on so many different spectrums now. And that's amazing because it brings such a diversity to how people work
absolutely.
and to how people view outcomes for problems and how they get to those outcomes. And so I think that you have to be able to take that kind of feedback and like realize that sometimes you have to adjust. You kind of have to be agile when you're a leader because not everybody, I'm assuming it, I don't have children, but I'm assuming it's like when you have kids, like both kids, 3 kids, 12 kids, whatever, none of them are going to be the same. They're not going to learn the same. They're not going to handle discipline the same. They're not going to handle rewards the same. So you have to figure out kind of what works for that individual and then figure out how your leadership style has to adjust to that. Or just have a multifaceted leadership style where you can be agile in those industries.
Absolutely. And truly, feedback is a gift. But
Mhm.
to your point, if it is only coming from one person, maybe not take that and take that as the gospel, right? Or
Yeah.
take that to heart. But look at, ask for feedback, get that feedback, because that's the only way you're going to grow, and improve. And so one thing that you speak on is burnout and boundaries. And so did you experience any burnout in the work that you were doing, and what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I traveled. My life revolved around someone else. So I think I had not just physical burnout because the days are long. You're doing 16, 18-hour days. And I mean, I was traveling on average like 285 days out of the year. Like I was on the go 24/7. So you don't just have like your physical where your body is just like, listen, we're not hitting the gym regularly like we should. We're not eating right. Like we're lucky if I get a power bar in my system. And then by the end of the night, I'm ordering like hotel room grilled cheese because I know it's going to be quick and hot and like it's going to get there as fast as it can. So that way I can get some kind of sleep. So when you have that kind of like physical job, I think that definitely takes a burnout where your body just starts shutting down. And I've definitely seen it now that I'm older. Um, I feel like when you're younger and I was in my 20s, like I just had the adrenaline and I had the ability to
Mhm.
go and go and go. And I was talking with a girlfriend last week about just about work travel. And I'm like, like I used to land from like a 2 week trip at 27 at like 10 in the morning. I would go to the office still, and then I would go and I would meet a friend that I haven't seen because all I've been doing is traveling for dinner and drinks, and then have to go back to work the next day. Like it was just go, go, go. And I only
Mhm.
did like a week-long trip this past week, and I literally had to sleep for an entire day after. I was like, I'm exhausted. Like I wanted to cancel plans for like 2 weeks in a row. And I'm like, I have to go to a wedding and I'm in the wedding. And I'm like, but we're so exhausted all the time. And then I think it's just the mental load. Like you have to have your own things and your own hobbies and your own friends. And I think that something that worked for me was I'm really lucky because a lot of the things that I do, half of them can be done online. So I got involved with different women's organization and volunteer organizations. So I was able to make friends that way, like women of the same caliber, of the same age, like same socioeconomic background who just want to like do better in the world. So I also could make friends in completely different industries because I wasn't going out and I wasn't having that opportunity to do that because I was really busy to meet these really amazing women and create these kind of friendships in a different way. So that way I can bounce off DSI them and, add them to my board of directors and all of those kind of things. And then just having like little hobbies. Like I recently took up needlepoint. I am not going to be some needle pointing like we're not even, I can't even make a coaster yet. Like I'm working real hard on it. I've been working on this coaster for 3 months now, but like the goal is to do those kind of things. Like I started this and the podcast and I get to meet people. Like you have to figure out how to fill your cup because if you're not filling your cup, you're not going to be able to fill anybody else's. And I think knowing that it's okay to take a break. I don't think I took a vacation for the first 6 years. I had a ton of PTO. That was awesome. And, like, taking a vacation felt wrong, like, I was like, "I'm gonna miss something," or, "I'm not gonna be able to, like, be there for really important things," or, "Something's gonna happen," when it was
Yeah.
so not true. Everything was fine when I went on my 10-day vacation. And now that I've reached a certain level in my career and a certain level in my life, like, financially and everything, I try to take just, like, burnout weekends where I will pick an island or somewhere in Florida, somewhere warm, and I will go and I will just sit from Friday night till Sunday getting a tan where I sleep 90% of the time. I'm like watching The Sopranos. I'm reading a book, but I'm just inundatingly alone. And I live alone, so that tells you something, but just getting away and having like just nothing to do where I'm not like, oh, I'm home. I should also organize that closet though. Like I should always
Mhm.
be doing something. As an eldest A-type daughter, like we're always on the go with things. And so we're always trying to do more. We're always people pleasing and saying yes to things. So scheduling that time to be like, no, this is just for me. And if you don't have those means to like just bop out of, the country somewhere or anything like that, just taking a Sunday rot day where you literally just turn off your phone. I put on
Right.
Harry Potter, let the marathon begin, and I don't leave my couch except to go to the bathroom or to get DoorDash. And like that's what you do. You just let your body rest, you let your mind rest where you're not thinking about things or just always on. And I think like that's a really healthy boundary to set. And it's kind of almost an easy boundary to just be like, I need one day a quarter. We're not saying one day a week, one day a month, one day a quarter that you just schedule to be like, I'm just going to rest. I'm going to let my body rest. I'm going to let my mind rest. And
Mhm.
we're going to just revamp.
Absolutely, and it just goes back to that intentionality because it's
Yeah.
so easy to get swept up and in the day to day and never take PTO. But to your point, you're doing a disservice not only to yourself but to others around you because you're burned out and you just can't do one other thing and even changing location. So even if it's not, leaving the country, just getting out of your house,
Yeah.
going for a walk or whatever that is, just removing yourself from that space is so important just to reset.
Going
Um,
to a movie theater and watching a movie you've already seen a million times, but like at least you're out and you're doing something and like you can just disassociate. Like that's so important to just
ab-
disassociate and chill for a moment.
Absolutely. And so, as we come, kind of to a close, I would love to understand a little bit about your speaking. So, this
Yeah.
was one of the things that you had built. And so, one of your speaking topics is building a brand rooted in integrity rather than performance. And so, what does that mean in this era almost that we're living in right now of curated identity?
I mean, I think so many people say this, but just trying to be your authentic self. And listen, I am not great at it. Like my online presence, like I hate creating social media. I'm not great at it. I have friends who are literal content creators and they're phenomenal at it, but they're so creative and they're like in the moment with the camera. I am 99% of the time forgetting to be in the moment. I'm just in the moment, just there's no camera. So I forget to do the filming of having that authentic experience and doing that. Or I want to have what I say, like, be really great. And, I'm also older. I just started a series this week about like turning 40. I'm like, and it is like, and I got comments. People are like, you talk too slow. It's a lot of dramatic pauses. And I'm like, thank you for that feedback. I didn't realize I was doing that. But also I am brand new to this. Let's be kind, people. Like this is not, I'm not 12 walking around with a phone inundated on how to do this. So I think you have to try to be your authentic self and not everybody's going to like that. Not everybody's going to want to watch, but like that's the nice thing is that you can stroll on to the next thing. So when I'm speaking about this, I'm letting women know that like by being your authentic self, a lot of times that's exactly what a company or a team or a project needs because you're bringing a completely different diversity. And as much as DEI is a lot of times on the back burner right now, real leaders know that they need diverse perspectives to
Hmm.
create the best product, to create the best, launch of a product, to showcase to their customers, to showcase, to fix a problem, whatever it might be, for whatever industry you're in. Like the diversity is going to help not only create the best thing, but also help others learn. Like if I'm learning somebody else's different perspective, I can be like, I never even thought to think of it like that. I'm going to take that
Absolutely.
with me and maybe utilize it in a future project, in a future personal situation, whatever it might be. So you're learning as you go. I mean, we're already pinned against AI. We don't need to be pinned against each other. We should be trying to bring diversity and figure out what's the best way because AI is doing the same thing that it's being taught. We're the human aspects of things still. So being diverse and being yourself, that's only going to be a benefit for the future.
Absolutely. No, I love that. And you have a book coming in 2027. So unleash your own femme force.
Yes, we are still in the writing process. For anybody who's written a book, props to you. Props to you. It is not easy. Like I will start writing and then I'm like, huh, but do I want to write about this? Or like, is this even worth writing about? So yeah, we're trucking along here, but it is a slow process for sure.
And so, as you start to create, and I'm sure it's a very different process than, you know, podcasting or speaking. And so what are you hoping that your book may showcase or, put out in the world that, is a message that we need to hear?
I think that it's not exactly, life isn't exactly what you picture it's going to be. Like I'm 5'4", 128 pounds, and I'm a bodyguard. That isn't exactly what anybody would think. Like, if anything, I should be like 5'10" and like this Amazonian woman. And I'm not. I'm not what you picture. I'm not what I don't think anybody pictures when I apply or when I show up for an interview. But that you can be really good at something and you don't have to be like the cookie cutter image of what everyone else expects it to be. Like, you can break open doors for other people by doing that. And also to learn from others around you. Like I've been really fortunate to work for some of the most influential people of our time. And because of that, I've learned a lot from them. Like I've learned how to structure my days. I've learned how to be a leader. I've learned how to manage people. I've learned how to be a friend or a sister or a daughter in a better way, how to volunteer, how to utilize my money in the best way. Like I've learned a lot of that. So you really need to like take lessons from those around you.
I love that. Well, I am looking forward to your release, and certainly, when we publish this podcast, we will link to that and keep
Awesome.
updated on when that's coming out. And so, you know, what would you say, in closing, what would you say to the woman who might be the only one in her room right now, exhausted, doubting herself, and wondering if she truly belongs?
Be unapologetically ambitious. Like at some point, you just have to stop apologizing for it. Just be unapologetically ambitious. You want to be a mom, you want to be working, do it. If you want to be a CEO, do it. If you want to venture out and start your own thing, it might fail, but do it. Be unapologetically ambitious with what you want in your life. And that can be from personal to career. If you want a partner who is phenomenal and treats you right, don't settle for anything less than that. Be unapologetically ambitious with your life.
I love that. So, Rachel, how can people find you and get in touch with you with your speaking, your podcast, your book, your work?
Yeah. So the podcast is called FemForce. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Threads, all the things. It's femforce_co. I'm working on trying to just get femforce. It is not an easy process. Somebody had it 10 years ago and just hasn't utilized it. So we're working on that. But you can find me at all of those. You can find me at my website, www.fem-force.com. And if you want to be on my podcast, you can fill out a submission form. If you're looking for a speaker, you can fill that out too. And if you just ever need anything, you can always send me a message on LinkedIn or Instagram. I always respond to anybody who reaches out. Like, I'm always available to connect and, just chat if you want.
Amazing. So, a woman who walked into rooms she was never handed an invitation to and built a career, a platform, and a movement in them. Rachel's story is a reminder that belonging isn't something we wait to be given, it's something we claim, defend, and eventually build for others. What I hope you take from this conversation is not just Rachel's story, but the question it leaves behind. What room are you standing outside of right now? And what would it look like to simply walk in? Rachel, thank you for your directness, your heart, and the work you're doing for other women who are still finding their way to the door. And we will link all of Rachel's information in the show notes. And
Thanks, Amanda. This was
of
so amazing to talk with you and be on this.
Of course. No, I'm so thankful to have you and to everyone listening. Remember, you don't have to fit in to take up space. And so until next time, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and keep becoming who you're meant to be. Thank you for joining me today on Who We Become. I hope this conversation reminded you that growth isn't always easy, but it is always meaningful. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need it. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow, rate, and review the show. It truly helps these stories reach those who may need a reminder they are not alone. Remember, what happened to you is part of your story, but it is not the end of it. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are shaped by how you rise. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep becoming who you're meant to be.